New York in the early 1900s wasn't built on steel alone. It was built on food. Most Jewish immigrants came fleeing violent pogroms, discrimination, and crushing poverty in Eastern Europe, especially Russia, Poland, and Ukraine, searching for safety and a chance to start again. Step into the crowded streets of the Lower East Side, and you'd smell history cooking. Onions sizzling in chicken fat, bagels boiling in kettles, and pickles brining in wooden barrels. For these families, food became their language when English failed, a way to remember home and survive the new world. And those foods that were once shaped by poverty and fear would one day define New York cuisine itself. Because behind every slice of pastrami on rye and every warm braid of challah is the taste of survival, written by people who refused to go hungry ever again. 1. Bagels with lox and cream cheese. Before New York had skyscrapers, it had bagels. Round, dense, and hand-rolled by Jewish bakers who rose before dawn. They'd boil the dough in kettles, bake it in coal ovens, and sell them by the dozen from pushcarts along Hester and Rivington. For immigrants, a bagel wasn't breakfast, it was belonging. When the first waves of Eastern European Jews arrived, smoked salmon, lox, was a rare luxury, sliced paper thin and laid carefully across a bagel smeared with cream cheese. It tasted like home, yet entirely new. Old world salt, meeting new world abundance. By the 1920s, this humble pairing had become a weekend ritual in Jewish homes across the city. What started as survival food became a symbol of success. You could leave the shtetl behind, but one bite of bagel and lox brought it all rushing back. The river smoke, the Sabbath mornings, the family crowded around a table far from home. 2. Bialis. If the bagel was the immigrant's crown, the bialy was its humble cousin. Softer, flatter, and brushed with onions instead of shine. Named after the Polish town of Białystok, these rolls came from bakers who couldn't afford luxuries like eggs or glaze. They baked flavor right into the dough, caramelized onions, poppy seeds, a pinch of salt, and the scent of struggle. In the cramped bakeries of the Lower East Side, bialys were breakfast for workers heading to the garment factories. Hot from the oven, they were eaten plain or with a scrape of butter, often while walking to a shift that lasted 12 hours. Unlike bagels, they were never boiled, just baked, browned, and gone before the tray cooled. But behind that simple roll was memory, of ovens lost in Poland, of families scattered by war. Every onion-scented bite whispered, "We made it." In a city of strangers, the bialy was a quiet comfort. Warm, fleeting, and unmistakably home. 3. Kasha and kugel. Before pasta or rice filled American plates, Jewish immigrants turned to kasha. Humble buckwheat groats, toasted golden and mixed with onions, eggs, and schmaltz. It was earthy, nutty, and honest, the flavor of the shtetl brought to the heart of New York. When times were tough, kasha stretched a family's food budget farther than meat ever could. Then came kugel, a baked noodle or potato pudding, sweet or savory depending on what scraps were around. A Sabbath staple, kugel carried stories from every corner of Eastern Europe. Some baked it with cottage cheese and raisins, others with onions and black pepper. It filled bellies, warmed kitchens, and reminded families that faith could taste like comfort. In the tenements, women would bake both dishes in shared basement ovens, swapping trays and gossip while the aromas filled the air. Even now, one bite of kasha or kugel feels like time travel. Back to a world where thrift met tradition, and flavor was its own kind of prayer. 4. Knish. Walk down Hester Street in 1910 and you'd hear it, the cry of the niche man pushing his cart through clouds of steam. Hot knishes, 2 cents. These golden, hand-sized pastries were more than snacks. They were portable survival. Mashed potatoes, onions, or kasha, wrapped in thin dough, baked or fried till crisp. Cheap to make, filling to eat, and easy to carry. The perfect meal for the overworked tailor or pushcart vendor. In the old country, niches were festival food. In New York, they became everyday fuel. Immigrant women rolled and sold them by the dozen, each one shaped by hand and baked in coal ovens that filled the street with buttery scent. Some stuffed them with cabbage or meat scraps, others with mashed potatoes so smooth they melted in your mouth. By the 1920s, niche stalls dotted Coney Island and the Bronx, proof that something humble could rise higher than anyone dreamed. It wasn't just a pastry. It was a small, warm promise that even in the new world, you'd never go hungry again. 5. Pickled kosher, Dill cucumbers. Walk through Orchard Street in the summer of 1912, and you'd catch it. That sharp, mouth-watering tang drifting from barrels lined along the sidewalks.